So often, we automatically focus on the negative things that are happening in South Africa that we are blinded to the vast amount of positivity that we can be focusing on. And today, we are going to be looking at the positivity in South Africa. Welcome to Citizen Concerned, where we remind you to beware of the Comrades. I'm Katla Ramwari. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Hashtag Smart Voters, hashtag Citizen Concerned.
There's a lot here that's going right.
Okay.
Number one, we became a democracy 30 years ago so that if we reached a point where the country wasn't well governed and its government ignored the consequences, people could change the government. That is all that's happening in South African politics at the moment.
While having a democracy and the right to vote for the government, party, policies and leader that we want may be something that we take for granted, it's actually a big deal. It is a luxury that our freedom fighters won for us. It is a luxury that countries like Russia, North Korea, Central African Republic, Venezuela, and others do not enjoy.
This week, Russia pushes ahead with a referendum on key changes to its constitution. That could keep Vladimir Putin in power until 2036. The 67-year-old has ruled Russia for over 2 decades. And as Mike Armstrong explains, critics are calling the pivotal move a constitutional coup.
And included in that bundle is one that would allow Vladimir Putin to run for president again, and again after that.
So it's a minor point, but a really important point. The big thing is Putin wants to rule for life, which is the Soviet tradition.
Putin has held one of the 2 big jobs in Russia since 1999. He's gone back and forth between prime minister and president. But under the 1993 Constitution, he can't run for president next time around. The amendment would let him run for 2 more 6-year mandates. Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny calls the referendum a sham and has been urging Russians not to vote.
You think having Vladimir Putin as a president for all his life is not a big deal? Well, what do you think about what's happening in Central African Republic?
In other news, voting is underway in the Central African Republic in a referendum which could allow President Faustin-Archange Touadéra to run for a 3rd term. The constitution's at stake in the vote, which could extend the presidential term and allow an unlimited number of mandates. You can see here the president casting his ballot in our pictures. His supporters are enthusiastic, but other residents are concerned by the prospect of one man remaining in power for decades.
Posters calling to vote yes can be seen across the country. There are reportedly no posters for the no vote. Members of the opposition say they have been threatened, and a protest they had planned was banned. Many are concerned for their democratic rights.
There is this change, the non-limitation of the presidential mandate. The duration of one mandate will be extended from 5 to 7 years, and a president can run an unlimited number of times. He can spend 100 years in power.
Other major change, the president would have the power to select the majority of the judges in the Constitutional Court. This referendum comes amid unrest, with several armed groups fighting in the country. President Touadéra, seen here in the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg, has turned to Russia's Wagner Group to help tackle those rebel organizations.
Still okay? What about being forced to vote when in reality there's only one candidate to vote for, as is the case in North Korea?
This election is the pinnacle of democracy. Well, that's what the authorities in North Korea say. They say it's why the country's official name is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Voters are choosing about 700 members of the national legislature, the Supreme People's Assembly. But there's just one name on each ballot, that of the state-sanctioned candidate. A lazy Sunday at home is not an option. Voting is mandatory for anyone above the age of 17.
I think our country is the only one that celebrates Election Day like a holiday. I'll do my best for the socialist system of our country. It's the best in the world. And I'll loyally support the leadership of our respected Supreme Leader, Comrade Kim Jong-un.
While there are private voting booths, few people use them. Crossing out a candidate's name is unheard of. Most voters cast their ballots publicly. and election wins are always landslides. In the last round of elections in 2014, the governing alliance won 100% of the vote. On paper, the Supreme People's Assembly is the highest organ of power in North Korea, but in reality, it's a rubber stamp body that meets only once or twice a year. In the true seat of power is leader Kim Jong-un. He's running for re-election in his district in Pyongyang.
Let's look at the last one. What about being given an ultimatum? Either vote for this candidate or you get no food, as is the case in Venezuela.
It's the day before the presidential election, and I'm here in a leaky basketball court in a neighborhood that voted heavily for Maduro in the last election. There's no stump speeches, no candidates, no flags for any party. But there are eggs and frozen chicken subsidized by the government. Maduro's campaign has been widely criticized for dangling food in front of the poor in exchange for votes.
Ese presidente sí que va pa'lante, agarra. Si no vas ahorita, yo no te puedo tomar en cuenta si tú necesitas un material, si necesitas un medicamento. ¿Acaso ya yo sé que si tú vas a votar, yo te pongo ahí, si ella nos dio nuestro voto? Mire, gobernador, fulanita tal no dio nuestro voto y tenemos que ayudar a esa persona porque no dio un voto igual.
Bridget is a Maduro party supporter and community leader in charge of food distribution for 100 or so families in the barrio. This isn't new. Handing out food and promising benefits have been popular get-out-the-vote tactics here since Hugo Chavez's time. What is new is the level of desperation. Maduro has turned this need into a not-so-subtle pitch. I give, and you give.
Eso es dando y dando. Yo estoy pensando en darle un premio al pueblo de Venezuela que salga a votar ese día con el carnet de la patria. Lo estoy pensando.
¿No vas a votar? Si vas a votar. No sé, estoy indecisa. ¿Estás indecisa? De verdad estoy indecisa. O es mejor dicho, mejor diablo conocido que diablo por conocer, pienso yo.
Bueno, los culpables son la gente de los Estados Unidos, esa gente que tiene esa guerra con el país, pues con Venezuela.
Some here don't blame the president for their hunger. They blame the U.S.
Ah, pero ellos sí tienen de todo.
Others don't buy that line.
Y la gente pasando roncha, eso es lo que no ven. He votado, ya no quiero votar más porque para mí estas elecciones son inconstitucionales.
But Maduro's critics don't have many other choices. He's already banned or jailed his most popular rivals. If anything, this election seemed to be about perfecting a system in which his party always wins. Not 50 yards away from the voting station is a punto rojo, or a red station, the color of Maduro's party. They're writing down the number of your benefit card, what's called the fatherland card, to make sure that you voted, and promising a special bonus if Maduro is re-elected. A hungry country should be a weakness, but in this election it was Maduro's strength because his government owns the food.
So yes, the right to change the government falls under one of the many positive things to be grateful for in South Africa. Also, do you find it strange that a lot of the countries with undemocratic voting systems are countries leaning a lot in the direction of socialist and communist rule? Share your thoughts on that in the comment section below as we explore more things to be grateful for in South Africa.
Second point on South Africa. Its people don't suffer in the main from the same crazed Mr. Musk apparently calls wokeness, which is sort of return to identity politics in the West, a mental disorder. South Africans, on the whole, outside of their elites, do not suffer from the woke mental disorder.
I know that when we browse through social media, we sometimes see people who believe that race and identity outweigh merit and value. That is the merit and the value that we bring to the table as individuals. But I think as we have conversations with people, our neighbors, having conversations on the bus, at the office, in long queues at SLARS or any state-owned entity, most of us agree that merit and value outweigh race. What I can do as a public servant, as a manager, as the nation's netball player, as whatever is of greater importance than the fact that I am black and I am a female, right? And yes, the wokeness from the West has slowly been creeping into South Africa, teaching us to create identity politics instead of focusing on the real issues and policies that we should be working on. The truth is, most of us are still caring more about what matters, and it just takes a few videos showing the crazy unintended consequences of this wokeness to be grateful that South Africa has not been consumed by that woke mental disorder. And let's pray that it doesn't take hold of more of us citizens, hey? But simply because we have these two and many other things to be grateful for in South Africa does not mean that the good will happen automatically. The huge responsibility falls on us as citizens of South Africa. Remember our video titled "The Most Dangerous Person in South Africa"? It speaks directly to this. It is up to us to vote out the incompetence and corruption that we have already seen. It is up to us to not vote in the socialism and communism that new parties seek to establish in our nation.
People are always sort of betrayed by their own sort of feet, isn't it? And that is that we see, for example, the old example of the politician's child who doesn't go and live in Russia or China. They go to London or New York.
Well, we polled that.
Yeah.
We said to South Africans, I can't remember exactly how we put it, but if you could live and work anywhere in the world, where would you go? And the options on offer were, well, I think China and Russia and Cuba, because it has a historical significance to many older ANC supporters. And then I think the UK, the US, and Germany, to give a non-English speaking Western society. 90% of South Africans said they'd go to a Western democracy. Now that is a very important indicator, and take the kids with them, because when you take away, you don't make an esoteric question, you make a theoretical question, you make an actual question. What would you do with your own children? The fact that obviously we're going to go to the Western world tells you, in fact, everything that you need to know. Yeah. About the kind of society that South Africans want to live in here.
The fact that none of these leaders go for holidays in socialist and communist nations, and the fact that none of these leaders take their children to get educated in socialist or communist nations shows you how much they are hypocrites. They do not consume socialist products, and yet they want you to aspire to be socialist. They keep enjoying capitalist products and services while they could be buying from socialist countries. Yet they want you to aspire to be socialist. Are you about to vote for people who are promising to do something that they do not believe in? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? What are the positive things, obvious or not, are we forgetting about in South Africa? Please drop them in the comments below, and let's remind each other to be grateful and optimistic in the midst of everything. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Katla Mwagi. This is Citizen Concerned. Please share this video to spread the positive vibes in South Africa. And until next time, please beware of the comrades.